The NFL did not stick the landing. And the NFL hasn't been sticking the landing. It's been a lot of smoke and mirrors because offenses have fallen off a cliff because the run-pass option, the RPO offense, has hit an iceberg, no different than the run and shoot, no different than the wildcat, no different than any other gimmick offense that comes to the league. And this is a dumbed-down gimmick college offense that has been foisted upon the NFL, and these NFL defenses are clowning these guys to the point that you have guys like Shady McCoy saying things that aren't supposed to be said about a black quarterback or Jalen Hurts. You got everybody's dancing around the issue, but Shady McCoy, as it relates to Jalen Hurts, went directly at it. Listen to Shady McCoy talk about Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts, I gotta be honest, man. Jalen Hurts, I need you to be special. Make plays. You know, and then, I did a lot of digging, man. And I won't throw them under the bus here, but I know some people, right? And the problem is we can't do different exotic looks, different formations, different motions, because I'm hearing that he can't really do it.
If we're talking about Jalen Hurts, the gold standard of the alleged smart RPO quarterback, and Shady McCoy inadvertently is pointing out something that everybody that's been watching football, everybody loves to dance around this. This isn't a criticism of Coach JB, but Coach JB is not as free as me to say, hey, man, this whole RPO black quarterback era isn't what it's all cracked up to be. JB continues to talk about how bad the quarterback play is, and he keeps calling out individuals, but he can't. He's not as free to just go at the racial component of this rigged up racial narrative that ESPN has foisted upon us, and that everything in the NFL is evaluated through some sort of skin color quota system rather than excellence, rather than merit. And we have a bad product that can't get out of its own way. C.J. Stroud won that game last night despite an awful performance. An awful performance. He did nothing. And again, Aaron Rodgers and what the Steelers do is different. They got a 42-year-old pocket quarterback who can't move, and they had an offensive line that couldn't protect. But when you look across the league at what these defenses, you can see it crystal clear in the AFC with the Patriots, the Broncos, and the Texans. This is Josh Allen is about to take on three of the best defenses in the AFC. He's got two left, but there's three. It's three great defenses: the Texans, Patriots, and the Broncos versus Josh Allen. The Bills don't have a great defense. And more than likely, one of these defenses is going to get Josh Allen. And that's not a slight, that's not a knock on Josh Allen, but what I'm suggesting is there should be a conversation going on in the National Football League when we look at quarterback play, when we look at these offenses that continue to struggle against defenses that all they got to do is throw their personnel out there. They don't have to do anything dramatic. They don't have to do anything creative to stop these offenses. Because strategy and creativity and the kind of offensive creativity we used to see, just like Shady McCoy just said, the quarterbacks that we keep propping up and through pressure and narrative and, hey, we're in this time of the black quarterback, blah, 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 and no one's evaluating actual quarterback play in a major way on ESPN, these real narrative drivers. Yes, do you have JB on his show and on the internet and myself and others talking about these issues, talking around these issues? But the NFL has a rigged up conversation with its television partners, ESPN, Fox Sports, CBS, Netflix, Amazon Prime, and whoever else that I can't think of off the top of YouTube. They got a rigged up conversation where all of their network partners, no one can really hold a conversation about like, hey man, the NFL's gone crazy with this RPO offense, and it actually doesn't work. It actually doesn't produce a great brand of football. Danny, my contention is that the NFL playoffs started hot. First 3 games, incredible, offense back and forth. And then the NFL actually reverted to the norm with its last 3 playoff games. Defenses are dominating offenses. To me, the RPO era is coming to a close, but no one wants to talk about it because that would mean we'd have to be talking about what style of quarterback should be getting employed in the NFL. But your thoughts on my contention that perhaps the RPO era should be reevaluated?
Oh, I think we talked about this last time. I think the NFL is cyclical. You find new concepts that work. Remember the Wildcat?
Yeah.
Remember the Wildcat offense? The Dolphins. I was covering the Dolphins that year. They were having some quarterback issues. They beat the New England Patriots and Tom Brady in week 1 and was like, what are they doing? They're putting a running back and their quarterback split out wide. And then do you remember everybody started doing it? It had it like as a third down package and it, kind of just ran its course. It was probably, that season it was all over the place. The next year it was kind of there and then it just dwindled and it went away. Tempo. Remember when Chip Kelly came into the NFL and he brought the Oregon offense and had tempo. Remember his first year, it was like, bam, it's lighting up teams. I think they were 10-6 maybe, and he kind of took the world by storm, and then teams adjusted to tempo. And they're like, all right, this isn't so hard to stop. I think it is the same with RPO. I think defenses have figured out how to take it away. I think they've done a better job of enforcing illegal linemen downfield, which is sort of a cheat code that teams have gotten used to be able to get away with, and it's really hard to defend. If they started to officiate that a little bit better, I think that has contributed to it. But it will never change, Jason. And it doesn't matter who you are, you have to be able to win from the pocket. Like you have to be able to win from the pocket. And I think you're seeing some offenses, some quarterbacks get exposed that aren't able to win from the pocket if they don't have their legs to rely on, an RPO scheme to rely on, maybe a great running back to rely on, and they're getting exposed. And I think some teams are learning the really hard way and quite the expensive way in some cases where they've got a quarterback that they banked on would have a ton of success moving forward and kind of not realizing what I just said, which is a truth. Like there are some truths in the NFL. I think one of them is you will always have to be able to win from the pocket at some point in the game. You have to win from the pocket.
Danny, this is easier for me to say, but you probably actually know it better than even I do, being a former quarterback. There are, and I don't want to put you in a tough position because I know how social media works, and so feel free to massage this question or answer it however you want. But there are people, Ryan Clark and others, that are rooting for style of play because they think, hey, if it's RPO, more black quarterbacks are going to be empowered and employed. Whereas I sit here just as a fan. I just want good product. I just want good games. I want exciting games. I want offenses to have a chance. But you are aware that like some people are rooting for the RPO because they want more Lamar Jacksons and less Tom Brady's.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think the other aspect to this is we've heard, I've probably even said it at some times, and I would love to be wrong on it, that the true pocket passer is going extinct, right? That the days of just a pure pocket passer are going away. And yet, who is probably going to win the MVP this year? Matthew Stafford, who is not somebody who's running around. He has lit it up from the pocket. There's a bunch to this. I think, you'll appreciate this. I don't want to get neither one of us in trouble, but I did a podcast with our friend PBD, and Stephen A. Smith was on it. And Stephen A. Smith was talking about Mike Tomlin. And he was very upfront. He's like, I root for Mike Tomlin because he's black. And I do think there's a lot of black analysts who root for black quarterbacks because they're black. And I think that is totally okay. So I think there's some of that to it as well. I think that's incredibly insulting to black quarterbacks, assuming they can only play in an RPO offense. Like I think Jameis Winston, he was the number 1 overall pick. I love the way Jameis plays. He is not a mobile quarterback. I think he could still win from the pocket. He's come in and had success from the pocket. Now he struggled with interceptions, but if you put him on a better situation, I think he could excel. So I think there's something to that. I mean, shoot, it is well documented that for some analysts, like even being black isn't enough. You have to be a certain type of black guy that comes from a certain background that acts a certain way because you just want to cut against the grain, or you want, like, I've never understood that. Like, I root for good quarterback play. I don't care what color your skin is. I want to see guys that can make great throws, that can make great plays. So I get it. I get some of it. I get what's going on. But I do, and here's what's crazy. As I told you a couple weeks, I think the quarterback position has never been easier to play. And when Phillip Rivers can go out there at 44 years old and show you that plays are there to be made, and he can't run at all. I mean, he was about 30 pounds heavier than what is when he played. He was a statue in the pocket, and he was still able to recognize blitzes, to get into protections, to find the one-on-one matchup that's the best one out there, and he was able to exploit them. Now, it wasn't great. No one's going to say he was putting out a Pro Bowl type performance, but all 3 games he started, he had his team in a position to win. Imagine if he was fresh, and had young legs. Maybe he'd be like Matthew Stafford, who's out there just tearing people apart by doing little things like manipulating his eyes, and the no-look pass is insane that he does, but he's manipulating defenses with his eyes. He's, using, because I do think one of the things that makes the quarterback position unique, and this was the only reason I felt like I had a chance, because it is a mental chess match that between you and the defense and what they're doing. And I think we've lost some of that because the RPO is very simple. It is dumbed down. It's simpler reads. You might have one side of the field, or you have one receiver. If it's not there and you don't hand it off, you don't hit the run, you don't hit the pass, then it's tuck it and run or just make a play. I think that has been dumbed down. But like I said, I think defenses have started to adjust to that.